Pluto. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmodown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stanjanis, and the host of the Schmodown Rundown, Brad Gilmore.
What's up, Movie Trivia Schmodown fans? Welcome to the Schmodown Rundown, the official after show for the Movie Trivia Schmodown. My name is Brad Gilmore here in beautiful Houston, Texas, a few days removed from the NBA trade deadline. And guess what? Neither the Rockets or the Bulls have Carmelo Anthony in their roster anymore. Where's he going to end up? Who the hell knows? It looks like the Lakers. But joining me from the city that bears the Chicago Bulls name.
The city.
A city. Joining us from A city is Frank Janish. Frank, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's very windy at the moment as we're recording this, so I don't. Literally, the wind is coming right through my window. It's like 25, 30 mile per hour winds. So if you hear some like wind, I don't know if Chris can work his magic and kind of eliminate that wind noise. But other than that, you know, it's been. I was so excited that the Schmodown started back up this week. The matches were great. I was like, wow. Even though it's been a little over a month since we had some matches, I really did miss it. And the new look and everything we'll get into. It was great to get back into the swing of things, and it's been a hell of a first week.
Yeah, I mean, really week two when you think about it, though, because you had the kickoff in New York. True. But this was the first proper studio show that we're used to, and there was a lot to talk about. We're going to get into all of it. But first of all, how was your Super Bowl Sunday? Did you enjoy it? Because here's the thing. Our episode last week dropped during the Super Bowl. We were streaming during the Super Bowl. And I'd like to think that our show is a bit more entertaining than the Super Bowl itself, especially the offensive level of play, and the halftime show. I think we had them both beat.
Yeah, because we're very offensive to each other on this show, so we definitely had him beat in that regard. You know,
Are you a fan of Adam Levine?
I don't know. I guess.
The thing is, I like Maroon 5, okay. I guess it's not just any average person would like Maroon 5. I think Adam Levine's an adequate singer, a great singer in most weeks. Thought he really did not bring it. He did not bring sexy back. Like his predecessor, JT, the year prior.
No, I saw you tweet that you went back and watched JT's performance, which, you know, I mean, he's a consummate performer, entertainer. I mean, he seriously is probably one of the best of our times, at least. But as far as the Super Bowl, I actually kind of liked the game. I enjoyed it. I do like a defensive struggle. I think I tweeted to somebody too, saying that, you know, I'm from Chicago. You know, the Bears are known for their defense. We love our defense here. So it was a great sight to see. And I'm used to seeing crappy offense anyways, with the past years being a Bears fan, except for last year, which was on the up and up. But generally speaking, I see horrible offenses all the time. So what I saw on the field that Sunday was better than most years of my entire life as a Bears fan. So
what
but
Bears
again,
fans are used to, that looked familiar in that game, was missed field goal kicks. That's what
my
Bears
goodness!
Fans are used to. Now,
I laughed. I was like,
last thing on the Super Bowl is this is another unique bond that Houston Texans fans and Chicago Bears fans share, and that is now Brian Hoyer has a Super Bowl ring once again. Jesus. And as the starting quarterback of the Texans and the Bears, he had to get it done as the backup to the GOAT for Tom Brady. But anyway, I hope everyone had a safe Super Bowl Sunday. I know a lot of people hated that the Patriots won. I'm a fan of all greatness. Just like the Warriors, who are dominant, I love the dominant Patriots. I enjoy watching high-level play, no matter how many times they win. So congratulations to the GOAT, Tom Brady.
You know, it's funny, too, because we really do have our own comparison by the namesake Patriots from Jeff and JTE. You know, people hate. I don't know if they love to hate them. They definitely did not hate them as much as people hate Tom Brady. I can tell you that. But you know, well, you got to respect what the guy does. And he's got six rings, man. So he is.
I said it.
The GOAT.
I said it to you I think I said it to you off the air last week, but I'll just repeat it on the air, and then we'll move on to Schmodown play. But I said it must really suck to hate Tom Brady. The guy's been in 9 Super Bowls now, won 6 of them. He's considered the greatest quarterback of all time. He makes millions upon millions of dollars, and then he goes home to his wife, who is a lingerie model who makes more money than he does. It must really suck to hate Tom Brady. But let's move on, Frank Janisch. Let's move on. I want to start the show off a little bit different this week. Normally we'll break down some news, but before we get into any news, this is what I want to talk about at the beginning of the show. I'm going to pose a question, and we're going to do this probably on a weekly basis, or if not every week, almost every week. I want to start off with a hypothetical question, and then me and you can kind of debate upon this. Now, this week, what we're going to do is we're going to pick what 3 players. We talk about greatness. We talk about great teams like the Patriots and the Warriors. What 3 players would you have in your dream faction in the movie trivia Schmodown? So you get 3 players. We can't pick the same 3, and we'll go one at a time, starting with Frank Janisch. Frank, if you had 3 players, who would you draft first overall in your dream team faction?
This is such an easy decision. It's clearly Rachel Cushing. She is a triple threat. Right. Like, what did you expect me to say? What would you expect any sane, knowledgeable Schmodown fan to say other than Rachel Cushing if you're creating the ultimate faction, if you will? She's a threat in singles, teams, and Inner Geekdom. Obviously, she's a reigning team champion, has had shots at the singles title. She potentially could have a shot at an Inner. She's always an Inner Geekdom threat. So right there, it covers 3 leagues at the top level right off the bat.
And a champion currently. That's not a bad pick. But we talk about greatness. You talk about the GOATs. You talk about championship caliber players. For me, the first person I would draft if I got to look at all the active players in the Movie Trivia Schmodown, first guy I'm getting is the dangerous one, Dan Murrell, the current Movie Trivia Schmodown champion. To climb to the mountaintop, not once, not twice, but thrice, you got to get an immediate contract offered from me to you to join my dream faction. So Dangerous Dan Murrell is number 1 for me, number 1 draft pick. Who you got next, Frank?
My number 2, I think I'm gonna go with Ethan Irwin.
Okay.
Ethan Irwin, former singles league champion. He went on a tremendous run last year. We didn't see him do too much damage, or any damage rather, in the Anarchy tournament when he was teamed up with Sabina. But now he's going to be teamed up with Janine, so I think, who's a great player too, as we saw at the live event. So I like his chance to do some more damage in the teams. And look, I just picked the number 1 accurate singles player of all time in Rachel Cushing, and I picked the number 2 accurate singles player of all time right now, Ethan Irwin. So I think I'm doing pretty good for the first 2.
Well, for me, I got the dangerous one, Dan Murrell, of course, 3-time champion. My second pick, it might be on your list. It might have been on your list, but you might have just missed the cut on this one. But I always like this player because every time they're out there, they give everything they have. They're emotionally driven. They're aggressive. And they put it all on the line every time they're out there. And that's why I'm going with 1/2 of the team champions, Clark Wolf, the classiest.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Clark Wolf. So I got Dan Murrell, Clark Wolf. To me, if Dan ever falls off, if he fades away, Clark Wolf is going to scrap, fight, claw, punch, jab, kick, knee, elbow, to the gut, the solar plexus, to the side of the head, break the nose, whatever she's got to do to get back in the mix for the singles championship. I feel confident that Clark Wolf would do it. That's why I'm putting Clark Wolf in my team. That's my 1 and 2. Who's your 3?
That's a great pick. I mean, she'll definitely will fight tooth and nail. My number 3. This is tough.
It's going to round out your dream team.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to take John Roca.
Oh.
He's a 2-time singles champ. He's a former team league champ. He's been in many high pressure situations throughout his career. And he's, in my opinion, he's on the Rushmore for Schmodown. So I think he's a solid pick. And there were also rumors at one point, I don't know if this is still true, that he was kind of studying up to try and enter the Star Wars League. So I kind of need a Star Wars guy. So I'm hopefully Rocha can do it if he does do it in the future. I don't know. But again,
that would be interesting to see John Rocha in Star Wars.
Because there was like this talk a few months ago or 6 months, whenever it was a while ago, it seems like, that he was, or at least I had heard he was studying up for Star Wars, or he had floated this idea that he might enter the Star Wars League. I don't know if that's still true or not, but let's say it is. That's why he's going to be part of my dream faction.
That would be, oh, there we go.
Oh, bringing down the house.
Chris, I'm pausing. All right.
How does that happen? Like,
it's very precarious. Okay, ready? 3, 2, Chris. Yeah. John Rocha in Star Wars would be very interesting. I don't know if we're ever going to see that. Who knows, though? We don't know who's going to be in Chicago for Star Wars Celebration. We're going to get to that in a minute. But my number 3, we have someone who's proven himself 3 times. We have someone who can do it at any time she needs to do it and make a deep run in singles, be on top in teams. I want someone who you can mold for the future. You know, you want the Jaylen Brown. You want somebody who you can mold and can be on a rookie contract, but you see becoming an all-star.
Do not say who I think you're going to say.
I'm not going to say Andrew Guy.
I know I'm not thinking that.
Okay, well, I'm going to say for my number 3, for my dream faction to join Dangerous Dan Murrell and Clark Wolf, I'm going to go with Ben Bateman. The boss.
Okay.
Ben Bateman. I think a guy who's going to have longevity in the league, who can win. Mm-hmm. I honestly think, and this might be a crazy thing to say, the guy studies so much and he's so in tune with the game. If he wanted to try and make another run at Inner Geekdom, I think he could do it. You know, I think that he could at least get far in a tournament if he just studied that, had nothing else on his mind. We've seen him get almost to the championship in teams. And then singles, he's going to be a threat in 2019 if he chooses to go down a singles path. So that's why Ben Bateman will round out my trio with Dan Murrell and Clark Wolf as my dream faction in the movie Trivia Schmoedown. But there you have it. Those are 2 interesting teams.
Yeah, how many people out there, Brad, do you think are absolutely livid? Neither of us picked Sam Levine. I mean, there's got to be a horde of people. I know Linus Babcock is going to be one of them.
There's a lot of people who we didn't pick. We didn't pick Bibiani. Sure. We didn't pick Mark Riley. We didn't pick Drew McQueenie. We didn't pick any of the Patriots. I mean, there are a lot of names out there.
I briefly contemplated picking JTE. I really did. Just because, like, the dude's a winner.
Oh, I did too. Yeah.
But man, if his singles career was just a little bit better, or a lot better, I probably would have picked him. But okay, we're done.
But those are our teams. Y'all comment below who's your trio. You know, if you're gonna go play an Ice Cube's Big 3, who you bring into the half court. All right, comment below. Your 3 picks. That's all you get. So anyway, let's get into a couple news bits here. First off, we had a hell of an event last week in the New York City event. Y'all forgot to see it live on the Schmoedown channel. I hope y'all went, rate, review, subscribe, do the whole thumbs up thing. Don't put a thumbs down, share it, whatever, comment. If it's something constructive, do all that stuff. We appreciate it. Dangerous Dan Murrell, of course, he climbs to the mountaintop again. Who beats Dan Murrell for that championship? I have no idea. I got some grief in the comments because I said Rachel could be a champion, and I said that Chance could be a champion, and someone was like, "Well, how can Rachel be a champion if Chance is going to be a champion?" I'm like, we had 3 champions in the last 3 months.
It's a valid point. It's a valid point.
It can happen. But who do you think, if you had to put your money on someone, who takes the title of Dan Murrell?
If there's as of right now, I mean, Ethan Irwin could still do it. I mean, he TKO'd him in a 3-rounder. The only reason Ethan Irwin lost against Dan is because Dan played a perfect game. He didn't miss a question. Like, it's hard to replicate that kind of performance consistently because you have to play that way to beat Ethan Irwin, it seems like. So, if anybody can still do it, it's Ethan Irwin. But, you know, look, if a certain someone gets back into singles play, Rachel Cushing, she is definitely a threat.
I don't disagree. I don't know, though. I don't know who takes it off Dan Murrell. Maybe Andrew Guy. You never know.
Well, see, the problem with that now is Andrew Guy's got to work himself all the way up to a number one contenders match, so he's going to have to win more than 2 in a row now. So
it's possible. He did it before.
Hey,
he almost got the number one contendership before.
He almost did, but he ran into the Outlaw, so who I put it on my fantasy faction team. So there you go.
Well, good for you. Outlaws also lost a bunch. Okay, so let's talk about this. The Schmoedown live, talking about the New York event, it's going to go back live. We do know there's going to be a free-for-all live event, and we also know that they're going to be live in Chicago, Illinois.
That's right.
That's your hometown. I've heard this discussed on Collider Live as recently as today or a couple days ago, I should say. It looks like they're going to have maybe even 2 matches. There's going to be a match at the Star Wars Celebration, and then a match the day after with the winner of that meeting Alex Damon for the championship.
Yeah, it looks like at Star Wars Celebration, it's going to be a fatal 5-way. It's a number one contender match, fatal 5-way number one contender match. Winner will then play Alex Damon the very next day, which would be a Saturday. So fatal 5-way on the Friday, Saturday match outside of Celebration, another venue. So you don't even need tickets for Celebration to see the title match between Alex Damon and someone from that fatal 5-way. If you're wondering about Sam Witwer is not available anymore, people. Sad as that is, he's just way too busy of a guy. Christian, I don't know if he talked about it on Collider Live, but he did definitely say something at the Q&A at the New York live event Q&A. He said it to that crowd. I do know that much. So if you're wondering about Sam Witwer, sorry guys, I'm bummed too, but that's just the way it is.
I think there's always that talk about, will the Star Wars League go away? Does it stay around? I think it probably will always exist in some sort of fashion, but
yeah,
if there were ever a match to decide who will go down as the last Star Wars champion of all time, I think it would be so great at, say, probably not this year, but next year, Celebration 2020, Star Wars Celebration 2020, do the going away match for the Star Wars Championship, Alex Damon versus Sam Witwer, and then retire the championship. That would be such a dream match. Even for me, somebody who I probably wouldn't score 1 point in a Star Wars match, but I still love watching them. And to see Alex Damon versus Sam Witwer, I would buy a ticket to wherever it was in the world.
That's like one of the that's when you do those fantasy like I want to see Barry Bonds and Babe Ruth in a game together. It's like turned into one of those scenarios where it's just never gonna happen unless, again, if Christian ever decides that, you know what, we can't really make the Star Wars League work, which honestly I don't think is ever going to. Well, it's not going to happen for a long time if it ever does, just for the fact that, there's a lot going on in the Star Wars universe now with TV shows, and the lore will continue. So, like you said, I think it's always going to kind of exist in some fashion. But if that day ever did come, I would hope that the impossible match between Alex Damon and Sam Witwer was somehow possible if it was ever to be the very last Star Wars League match.
Yeah, I would love to see it. So that is rundown. I mean, the Schmoedown will be in Chicago, Illinois, Star Wars Celebration weekend. I don't know if that's the 11th or 12th. I know details, though, are out right now. Go to triviasd.com to find out more, or check out the Schmoedown Instagram feed or Twitter feed or Christian's feed. There's going to be tickets, information on how you can see the shows and all that stuff.
As we record this right now, we don't actually know if the tickets are up for sale or not. Christian had been talking about it during the week that hopefully they'll be up. So check the website, see if they're up, because we honestly
they could be up right now. You could be. It could be sold out by the time we talk about this. You don't
That's
know.
true, because that's how Chicago. That's how Chicago rolls.
It will be interesting to see if your hometown will put on for the Schmoedown. I would like to see it, even though it's going to be an it's kind of a special situation.
My mother already said she needs like 100 tickets.
Did she really?
Yeah. She's like, oh, you're welcome. Can we get 100 tickets? I was like,
Sam? Sam. Frank? Why'd I call you Sam?
I have no idea.
When a goldfish here. They said, do you want some cookies?
My Lord, that interview. Anyways, that's another show.
Do you want some milk?
Oh my gosh.
I said yes. I have a feeling that he was in a character. I think he was in character.
No, that was him. I watched that interview like 3 times, and that's him.
So there was a conflict between Schmoedown fans, or Collider Live fans, I should say, as to was that interview a great interview or was it a train wreck? I'm on the great because it was hell entertaining.
Yeah, it was exactly. That was the point. Like, you might have thought it was one way or the other, but I was glued to it. So that was great. Anyways.
I said yes. Okay, but that's the Schmoedown Live in Chicago. Go to TriviaSD.com to find out for tickets. Okay, Frank Janisch. We're 20 minutes in, so let's talk about our matches from this week. If you were a subscriber to the Patreon, you got this match hella early in the week, and that was the Harris Brothers versus Critically Acclaimed. And this match was to determine the number one contenders for the Shire Wolves Team Championships. A lot of people thought last year that Critically Acclaimed should have had a championship shot. I know if Chris Clark were here, he would have said, yeah, well, they should have done it. And William Bibbiani.
Behind the scenes, when you talk to Chris about it, he would draw some expletive deletives, talking about what happened to Critically Acclaimed. He was pretty perturbed, I'll tell you.
He got hot about it.
For real.
He was really,
and he's not here right now, but so he can't really. So what say much,
as he's editing the episode, he's gonna be like,
right, yeah, this goes.
What an ass. But I mean, a lot of people were upset because there's a great case that Chris Clark made to us, many a times about Critically Acclaimed and how good they were. So now here they are in the first proper studio match of the season. They have an opportunity to get a number one contender shot, and William the Beast Bibbiani has a chance now to go on to do something that very few people have done, capture teams and singles gold. But let's talk about the match, because did the Harris brothers deserve to be here?
Well, just because of the way the tournament ended. They were tournament finalists, and it's
They're
been like that.
Finalists by a technicality. You know what I mean? Like, Lon and JT were supposed to be the team, and then JTE, had an accident, so they throw in, the older Harris brother. Harris brother, they slip on a banana peel for a couple matches, and they find their way into the finals. I don't know if the Harris brothers were ready for this kind of match.
I think a little bit, but I know it's hard to say. I don't know if they were ready or not. I don't. Here's the thing about the Harris brothers. As much as I love them as a team together, Lon is outstanding. Jonathan Harris is an average player in this game as of right now. I mean, his first round scores were all 5s up to this point when he scored 3. So, and the only reason why he was tied at the end of the first round is because Lon Harris had to have a perfect round and the bonus. That was the only reason why it was tied against Critically Acclaimed. So, it did not surprise me that the Harris brothers lost to Who's the Boss. It didn't really surprise me here either that they lost to Critically Acclaimed, because I hate to say it, Jonathan Harris, and he kind of admitted this, I guess, a little bit, or at least in tongue-in-cheek in the post-match interview, that he's kind of the weak link between the both of them, and it's pretty noticeable when you look at the first-round performances. So,
yeah, but to me, okay, look, this might come off as harsh, but if you're average, if you're an average player, and you know this about yourself, you know that you're the weak link coming into the match. This is self-admitted, right? Why
sort
not,
of, I think, yeah.
Well, I mean, why not do your best to prepare? Because the thing that I don't like is the kid in class, this is apropos because they're both professors, the kid in class who knows he's failing the course. He knows he's got a 59, right? And he comes in for finals week. He's ready to take the final. He's got to ace it. He's got to do better on this test than he's ever done in order to pass the class and move on to the next grade or hopefully graduate someday. There's nothing more that I hate than that kid walking in and he's sitting next to me in the desk. I'm sharpening my number 2 pencils. I've got my Scantrons nicely placed on the left side of my desk, and I turn to him and I say, "Hey man, did you study?" And he looks back at me and says, "Nah man, I'm just hoping for the best." There's nothing more that I hate than that guy. And I feel that's how the Harris brothers came into this match. That's how John Harris came into the match. Nah, man, I'm just hoping for the best.
You know, when you look at the Harris brothers too, it's in order for this team to succeed, Lon Harris has to have his A game every single time he's out there in order for them to have a shot at winning. It seems like that because when Lon had a down first round or a down game in that tournament final against Who's the Boss, I think Lon had 5 points in that first round. And so did Jonathan, I think. But it was a below average score for Lon Harris. And look, they got blown out severely in that game. And when you're going up against high level competition like Who's the Boss, critically acclaimed, who know their stuff, and you're the other team, and only one of you can really bring it. And the thing with Jonathan Harris is he hasn't had like a stroke of brilliance once out there that I saw in the first round, at least. I don't know. It's hard to tell who knows what in those second rounds because we don't hear those conversations when they're deciding the answer. So all I have to go on is the first round, and just given his average play in that first round, he never hit 7 points or 6 points or 8 points. So it's not like it's somewhere in there. I think this is really the player that Jonathan Harris is as of right now, and it's a detriment to Lon Harris and the team as a whole to go for the title in this league, in the team league.
Yeah, it's too much too soon. I mean,
look at the teams you got to compete with.
Yeah, they've got the teams league is probably the thickest it's ever been in Schmoedown history, whereas there are 3 or 4 legitimate contenders for the title. And then you have Lon, who does well. Sometimes he can get the yips, but overall, he does.
But that's why you have
a
teammate that should to kind of lift you up when you're down, and Jonathan Harris hasn't been able to do that for Lon.
It's too much too soon. It's like the Orlando Magic when Shaq and Penny were out there were great. They were great, but they got to the finals too quickly, and they weren't ready for the Dream and the Houston Rockets, so they got swept. And that's kind of what happened in this game. I wouldn't say they got swept by any means, but it was too much too soon. Let's talk about it, though. Round 1, it looked like they could have done something good. Round 1 ends, it's 12-12. They're both in it. Lon is going great to the point that Bibbs even said to Lon, "Can you miss this one?"
Yeah,
I think that's what he said at one time. Can you just miss this one? So they were doing well in the first round, but one thing I want to call out here, and I wrote this in my notes, and I don't want to be the HTK, the hot take kid today, but there's something that was done in this match that I didn't particularly like if I'm looking at it through the player's scope, right? We talk about on this show all the time how it's more than answering questions. You have to play the game. Guys like Andrew Guy, Ben Bateman, they know how to play the game. And I really think, and even Sam Levine, and I think that since the game has been played the way it's been played and the way these guys view the league, since they have put an emphasis on that, other players have started to have their minds turning and their gears turning in their minds, rather, and they've been trying to figure out what strategies can they implement to get an upper hand. Right? I think that we've seen a renaissance in strategy in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown in the last year. Strategy has become the number one thing that people rely on to win matches. Doing the math, knowing the spins, knowing the other player, how can I get in their head, how can I kind of maneuver my way through the rules to get the best advantage. One of the guys who's been playing catch-up and doing it quite well, and as a quick study, is William the Beast Bibbiani. Bibbiani, we've seen, he knows the knowledge. He has the knowledge. But he does these subtle things that I think are part of his strategy in order to get an upper hand. I think one of them is when he stands up. I think standing up, for some reason, it creates a different energy in the room. If you ever watch the Breakfast Club interviews with DMX, DMX never sat down. He always stood up. It created some sort of an imposing feel in the room, and it made this guy feel like he's larger than life. Like he knows something that we don't, so he cannot sit down like a regular human being. He must stand in the air. So I've noticed that about Bibbs. Now, Bibbs did something else that I enjoyed very well. Bibbs had his whiteboard, and when the animated question for Rio came up, he wrote Rio, and then he keeps scribbling like it's a long title. Brilliant.
It's fantastic.
So brilliant. It was so brilliant to the point that I didn't even know that what was happening. I didn't even realize that happened. It was so brilliant, and I saw him writing forever, and I'm thinking, oh, Bibbs knows this thing. You know, it's some movie that it's a long title. Bibbs got it. And it was just Rio. So it was a mind game that he was playing for the other players. It was subtle. It was not overt. It was just there. And if you noticed it, you noticed it. If you didn't, you didn't. Right? The thing that I didn't like.
It's great.
The thing that I didn't like, and give me 1 second, Frank. You can jump in here. The thing that I did not like was the call-out of the maneuver by Christian Harloff, because you have now interjected yourself, and if it was Christian, if it was Mark, if it was whoever the hell it was, I would say the same thing. But you have now interjected yourself in the game as someone who's supposed to be a commentator but a spectator, more so the Alex Trebek of the game, more than a Joe Rogan, if you will, if you understand what I'm saying by that. Not so much analyzing in real time, more facilitating questions and moving the game along. By interjecting yourself with that comment, you have now exposed the B strategy, so therefore he can never use it again. Because now, anytime someone sees him writing like that, they automatically think it's a fake.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you about like 80% of the way, because when Christian brought it up, I was like, man, like that's a great point, and I love it as well. But at the same time, it's like you kind of exposed him. You're right. So, however, if this was done, if a lesser caliber of a player did this tactic and Christian called it out, I'd be probably a little bit. If I was the other person, I might be a little bit more perturbed about it. But because it's Bibbiani, and because people know he knows his stuff through and through, are you really going to sit there and look at him scribbling away and think, oh, no, it's a one-word title? Or are you like, well, it could actually be a 5-word title? Or if it's a longer title, he just writes one word and then waits for you to look away and then finishes writing there's so many things he can do. I mostly agree with what you're saying, but I think people like Bibbiani can still make that kind of tactic work where it's a mind game. So it really is going to beg your opponent to really just focus on what you're doing and not worry about the other person, which again, it's more than just answering the questions. It's the gamesmanship, it's the strategy. And Bibbs, I think, I can't recall another player pulling this maneuver. Can you?
Oh, I can't either. It's genius. So let me let me understand what you're saying.
It could be the hot new trend of this year. It could.
It could be. But you're saying since Christian called it out, and now we're even exploiting it even more, but since
right,
Christian called it out, are you saying that could actually play to Bibbs' advantage? And now people are going to be second-guessing themselves as to, is he faking me out, or is he actually writing the real answer? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, mostly because everyone knows Bibbiani knows his stuff, so it's not a foregone conclusion that he's writing a long title for the heck of it, because he very well might know. He's one of the best first-round players of all time in this game. So whatever he's writing down, are you really going to sit there and be like, I only wrote 2 words, and it looks like he's writing 7. Like,
right.
You
might second guess yourself. Yeah.
You might. And so it might not even matter that Christian called it out, but at the time I was like, dude, what do you do? He might want to use that further on in the round or whatnot. Or this could have just been a spur of the moment thing that Bibbiani thought in the moment, didn't really realize what he was doing, and then heard it was a good idea and was like, maybe I should use this a little bit more.
It's true. I don't know. I would like to. I might DM Bibbs and get clarification for next week, because I thought it was so smart after I realized what happened. And I was like, this is really Schmoedown strategy to the next level. This is Schmoedown strategy 2.0. This is like card counting in Las Vegas. This is really like crazy stuff that Bibbs is thinking about.
Oh, it was great.
And he's trying to win the champion. I mean, he's trying to win championships. I mean, and you want to win championships, exactly. You got to game plan like Bill Belichick. There's a reason he won 6 championships because he knows how to game plan for his opponents. So I loved it. I didn't love the call out, but you're right. Maybe it would work to his advantage. We go into round 2. Oh, go ahead.
Well, real quick too. I mean, like Bibiani, he was very chippy that whole first half of the round too. So he came ready to play. He came ready to win that day.
Yeah, he looked like he had a fresh cut. He looked like he looked good in his coat. You know what I mean? Bibbs came in with some swagger. I appreciated it. As a man who's wearing a coat right now and wears coats every day, I appreciated Bibbs' swagger in this game. Whitney Seibold, always dressed to the nines, kind of seems to be part of his gimmick. But Bibbs, I like Bibbs in the coat. Bibbs, I like you in the coat, man. I like it. Okay, let's move on to round 2, 24-20, critically acclaimed on top of the Harris brothers. What's your analysis here in round 2?
Yeah, so Harris brothers, they elect to stay with classics, and they kind of pigeonhole themselves to take these kind of categories, much in the same way Team Action kind of cornered themselves into taking action whenever it came up, right? So because of this mentality that the Harris brothers bring to the game, that they're very on the high art kind of thing. They're of the more elegant cinema, if you will, whatever they're spewing. They kind of have to take the classics, and they do, and it doesn't go as according to plan as they would have liked. I mean, they did give up a 1-point steal to critically acclaimed. The one question that kind of blew my mind that they didn't know was who played Maria in West Side Story. That one, actually, they had to go to multiple choice for that one. I could not believe 2 players of their astute knowledge couldn't recall it was Natalie Wood. That of all those questions in there, that's the one that surprised me the most. So. But they came up with 8 points in that round, and so they're at 20 points. It's not a bad total to have, but you go up against critically acclaimed. You need every single point you can get.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by too much too soon. Obviously, they did not come in ready for all categories. Like I think players like critically acclaimed do, like Who's the Boss do, like the Shire Wolves do. They come in, these championship level teams, they come in ready for all categories because they have to be. They have to be. And the Harris brothers, for them to not excel at classics is very head-scratching to me. And maybe that's just us judging a book by its cover, and we assume that they are film connoisseurs from the classical era of cinema and blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the thing. In wrestling and in life, you got to live your gimmick, brother. And that was not them living the gimmick. Yeah. So to come out with 20 points, that's okay. But like you said, critically acclaimed, they end the round with 24 points. And what category? Did they get 80s?
90s. They got 90s.
90s. I'm sorry. Yeah, 90s. I thought about when they spun 90s, what a great swerve it would have been if Christian was like, yes, in the category of 1890s. What theater, what theatrical play. But anyway, so they get 90s, and they do rather well. Janice, they get, 12 points? Is that right?
Well, they ended up with 12. They scored 11 in the 90s category, 12 total with the 1-point steal. They went multiple choice just once. Bibiani had that great line of, I know my little women. That was pretty funny. And, it was just, this is what critically acclaimed can do. And, they just seem to, Bibbs talked about it, he's like, they seem to play like one match every 8 months or something like that. So you might forget how well they play, but they certainly reminded everybody on this day. Because
it's 1, 2, 3 rounds, you're out in the old Schmoedown. And in 3 questions, the Harris brothers, once again, they had 3 questions. They got 3 strikes, and they came up with the yips in round number 3, and they cemented their loss in round number 3 to critically acclaimed, who didn't even have to move. and critically acclaimed wins 24-20. How shocking was it?
Fourth TKO, man.
How not how shocking was it that critically acclaimed pulled a victory off? How shocking was it that they swung and missed on all 3 of their third round questions?
Yeah, that is really surprising. And look, 2-pointers are supposed to be earned or answered correctly, like a vast majority of the time. Once in a while, yeah, it's going to happen. You miss. But then, hopefully your teammate can pick you up on that 3-pointer, and if not, or even if it is the case, the 5-pointers, both of your minds should hopefully come up with an answer there. Just to go 0-3, everyone, not all of them, just both of them, off their game right there. Like I said, too much of it rests on Lon if Jonathan can't kind of pick up the slack, where if Lon's kind of having a bad round or. So this, even though this wasn't really the case here because Lon misses 3-pointer, it just, I don't know about this team going forward, how much damage they can do, I just feel like they're a fringe team that can't hit that upper echelon where they're a legit threat to the belt, but they're just on the outside of that where they can prevent some other teams from bumping up, but never putting themselves over the hump at the same time.
I agree with that. So let's talk about not the future for the Harris brothers. Let's talk about the future for critically acclaimed. They now have an opportunity against the Shirewolves, who Shirewolves are 5-0 at this time, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
They're 5-0. Incredible. One of the best runs in the history, probably second to the Patriots at this point. Critically acclaimed statistically. How does critically acclaimed, how they perform, what's their overall accuracy statistically as a team?
Statistically as a team, they're just a shade under 79% accurate, 78.63 to be exact. And then Shirewolves, they're at 83%. So, I mean, that's a decent difference.
About 5%.
Yeah, it's a decent difference, yeah.
It's enough to mean, it's enough between the difference between champion and not champion. I mean, 5%, if you get 5% less of your questions correctly, you're not going to beat the Shirewolves. So, but I like, go ahead.
There's a other interesting statistic that I keep track of, and it's the possible points earned percentage. So, critically acclaimed, they've had the opportunity to score 155 points. They've out of those 155 available to them, they've earned 117 points in their 5 matches, so that's a rate of 75.48%. And you compare that with the Shirewolves, they are at 79%. So even their points of their PPE percentage is still fairly above critically acclaimed, which is a good indicator which is a nice indicator to show that when they get to big point questions like a 3-pointer or a 5-pointer, they capitalize on them more often than not. And so critically acclaimed, they haven't had to enter that scenario all but once. So it's hard to say how they would perform as a team in a situation where you might very well find yourself in the situation against the Shirewolves where you're going to have to go to the final round, answer a 2, 3, a 5-pointer. How are they going to do as a team? How they can confer on a 5-point pressure situation where it's quite possibly for the title? These things remain to be seen. So that's very intriguing when you think of this matchup.
That is interesting. That's a great stat. What do you call that, PPE percentage?
Yeah, that's what I came up with. I coined it.
And what does it mean again?
Possible points earned. Percentage of their possible points
earned. I like that. Their PPE percentage. I'm going to ask for more of that in the future. But let me ask you this question before we move on from this match. Can critically acclaimed stop the Shirewolves' undefeated streak and become champions? If you had to bet on it right now, you would say?
If I had to bet on this, I would put money on the Shirewolves.
Okay. And why is that?
Yeah. I think Who's the Boss is one of the best teams to to appear in this league outside of the Shirewolves in quite some time. I think Who's the Boss could very well, you could make the argument, is just as good as Above the Line was. You put him in an Iron Man match, I don't care about that. In a 5-round setting between Who's the Boss, Shirewolves, Above the Line, I mean, all very, very close in terms of knowledge and the way they play, especially the way they play. Shirewolves, I think, have withstood a huge test against Who's the Boss. And that's, I mean, one of the most pressure-packed title matches I think has ever been played. It's definitely up there with Above the Line Patriots, number 2. So I think Who's the Boss Shirewolves is battle-tested. Critically acclaimed, they've had a pretty easy ride with 4 TKOs. So they haven't had to feel the pressure. Aside from that major upset against Late to the Party, they've pretty much, I think, erased that from their memory, forgot about it, wrote it off as if it never happened, and that's fine. Shirewolves have been through way more. They've played 5 matches. Critically Acclaimed's played 5 matches. Who I think's been tested more? Definitely Shirewolves at this point.
But how long, Frank? How long can they keep that up? You can only fight it off for so long before you're just mentally worn out from trying to hold on to the thing that you worked so hard to get. And that's why I think Critically Acclaimed, I think it looks good for them. I'm not going to come out and say that they win, but just based upon how many matches the Shirewolves have had and how many times they've had to defend the championship and just the odds. You know, the odds are that it's their turn. You know, sometimes when you have the home run hitter and he's been hitting home runs every single game, eventually he's going to have that game where he just strikes out all night long. I think that's what we're coming up on. That's what we're coming up on, and then we're coming up on Critically Acclaimed. We know that they can hit home runs. We know they can hit a grand slam. They can knock it out of the park every game. They've had some TKOs, so they've won some good games. They haven't just knocked it all the way out of the park. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, you know when a hitter is due, and I think Critically Acclaimed is due. I'm not going to come out and say they're going to win, but if there's ever a match that the Shirewolves are going to lose, it's this one. That's all I got to say.
I'm going to disagree there. I just think once they beat Who's the Boss, I was like, I don't know of the currently constructed teams right now who can beat them. And look, I need to see more from Founding Fathers. Well, I mean, that's what else am I going to look at?
But you can't look at it like, well, who could possibly beat them? You know who they're facing next. Is it possible for Critically Acclaimed to beat them?
No,
absolutely, because Andrew Guy beat Dan Murrell. Anything is possible.
Well,
you just got to look at what is probable. Sure. Is it probable the Shirewolves retain? Well, if you look at the stats, if you look at the PPE percentages, you would say that it is probable they retain. Is it possible that they lose? Absolutely, especially with a hungry William Bibbiani. I think anything is possible. But we got to move on. We
Yeah.
We
can talk. I could go on about this for a while.
Let's talk about what we saw after the post-match interviews. We saw Bobby Gucci. Bobby Gucci was standing in a kitchen. It looked like, and he said, "Hey,"
or a closet, or what was it? Yeah,
it's a kitchen or a closet. But he said, "Hey, this looks like my Uncle Herman's grill. This looks exactly like it. I should probably sell it on eBay for $200." Great Bobby Gucci line already. Already won me over. He already won me over. And then Andrew Guy, we see Andrew Guy walk in the frame. He's on the phone. I think he's on the phone with Bibbs. And he says, "Bibbs, how'd you get my number? It wasn't your table." You know?
Yeah.
And of course, I'm assuming referencing the table that he speared Ben Bateman through. And anyway, Andrew Guy's trying to recruit Bobby Gucci. Bobby Gucci kind of liked it. He's like, "Gucci Guy." I like the sound like that. It's kind of like Dirk Diggler and Neon. Just killer line after killer line.
Yeah.
And he said, "But I don't need another guy. All right, got guys. I got 2 guys that's going to beat 2 girls. So I don't have a room for another guy. You get it, guy?"
Oh, man.
And then how do you not smirk at it? Like, how do you just not love him? And then you see Robert Meyer Burnett enter, and Robert Meyer Burnett has a wig that Dagnino wore in the JTE trial. He's going to threaten to burn the wig.
He's
going to threaten to burn the wig. Bobby Gucci calls him out as the guy who burned his mask. And he said, "I knew it was you. Nobody else has that structure," which is another great line. And it kind of ends with Andrew Guy and Robert Meyer Burnett kind of teasing what's to come in their newfound partnership, which actually leads us into the beginning of the next match, which we actually saw Mark Yodi Riley against the Godfather Drew McQueeney. And at the beginning of that match, we saw Robert Meyer Burnett walking down an alleyway, and Andrew Guy jumps out from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he says, "I've been here for 2 weeks, waiting on you. Christian banned me from the building. I'm not allowed in. Did you kind of take care of everything?" Essentially is what he's asking Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert Meyer Burnett essentially assures him that I got it. Right?
Yeah.
And then we see how this will play out. Frank, did you love these two scenes, or did you love the two scenes?
I'm going to lean towards loving the two scenes.
Okay. Safe pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, that once Robert Meyer Burnett brought out that wig, I knew instantly where it was from, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is what the kids would call an Easter egg." If you're a fan of the 2014 inaugural season, back in the original crew that came up with the Schmoedown and all that at the AfterBuzz Studios. So I thought it was great that they used that prop. That was amazing. And again, Finstock, Bobby Gucci, whatever you're going to call him, always with the one-liners. You can always look forward to that. The scene in the alley I thought was pretty funny. And it just kind of shows you how symbiotic this relationship between Robert Meyer Burnett and Andrew Guy is going. They talk about how, going back to that scene with Finstock, when they're leaving there, he's like, we're going to be tackling people and setting them on fire. I mean, these guys are just looking to create all kinds of, high crimes and misdemeanors. That's what's going to be going on this season. So, we later find out what Andrew Guy was talking about to Robert Meyer Burnett about, are you going to take care of it? Do what you're going to do. So, and we'll talk about that at the end of the match, I guess.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the match. But let's talk about it. Mark Riley, Yodi Riley. We saw him last in teams with Who's the Boss against the Shire Wolves. And you have Drew McQueeney. Drew McQueeney, of course, former team champion with Sam Levine in Above the Line. And then the belts were retired. He had a run with Who's the Cannoli in the Anarchy tournament. I think I earmarked them to go all the way. Didn't work out for him and Breanne Chandler. But now we see him back in a singles capacity, which he has always been, I don't know. I was going to say he's always been dominant, but he's kind of been up and down in singles.
Yeah, he's a 4-4 coming into this match, believe it or not. Just, you look at his performance in teams with Above the Line with his former teammate Sam Levine, and you look at what he did in his singles career thus far coming to this match, it's like night and day, and I can't really explain it. I don't think he can explain. I don't know anybody that can explain.
Oh, well, I think it's easy to explain. I think it's easy to explain. Some people work better in collaboration. I mean, I know that about myself. If I had somebody to bounce things off of, I know I work better in that environment than to just sit there with a pen and pad and try to come up with stuff. And I think that it's the same in sport. It's the same in the league.
Let me give you a number here for Drew. Drew, when he was with Above the Line, his career accuracy in teams, his individual questions, he answered 89% of them in his 7 matches, his 7 round matches, not including the Ironman. And then you look at his 8 matches in singles, and he answers 74%. That's a huge difference.
Yeah. That's a big drop-off.
Explain that. I have that's what's so confounding about his play between teams and singles. It's not like a couple percentage points here and there. We're talking what was it?
Significant drop.
12
like a 15
points. Holy crap. Yeah. What's the deal there? So
it is significant, and I won't say that it's not significant. But to go back to the point I was making, I still think that it's some people work better in collaboration. They really do. Sure. And if he knows that I don't have to pull the whole load of the team, I know I have a team member who can do just as much as I can, and does just as much as I can. I don't feel that same pressure. I think that must be what it is. But let's go into this match.
Sure.
First round goes down 9-5. Drew McWeeny comes out guns blazing, gets the bonus point. Mark Riley doesn't seem to have his footing in singles just yet. I mean, of course, we remember his match against Andrew Guy when Andrew Guy was picking off the Five Horsemen, and didn't look like Riley, the Yodiest one, had come back all the way as of right now. It seemed like he was still trying to find his sea legs.
Yeah, his last match last year, in his first round, he got 3 points against Andrew Guy. He gets 5 here. So, is it an improvement? Yeah. Is it more in line with his career average? That's a little bit below average. He's more of a 6-7 pointer guy. But nonetheless, it's a decent enough round. But then you run into Drew McWeeny, who miraculously gets his first perfect round in the singles league. He's done it a few times in teams. He does it for the first time in singles. And look, if you're trying to start off your 2019 campaign on the right foot, he certainly did it here. So it was not looking good for Riley right off the bat because, look, it's one thing if he gets 8 points, you're down by 3. You can live with that. But if he gets the bonus, which you have no opportunity to even answer, and now he goes up by 4, that's a pretty big deficit.
Yeah, I would say it's a massive deficit. Yeah. And most people, I don't think that you could find solid footing after a 9-5 round 1. I mean, 4 points playing catch-up. You better hope and pray when round 2 comes up, you get spinner's choice. Oh, wait a minute. He did get spinner's choice in round 2. The one thing that I thought could get him back in the game was spinner's choice, and he got the one thing that he needed, and then he went with scores and soundtracks, which we've seen only him and Christian Harloff like to gravitate to, and he knocks it out of the park, and now he's back in the game, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, he put up a good showing with scores and soundtracks. He gets 5 points here. He goes multiple choice a couple times. He does give a 1 point steal, so that kind of stings. But, right, he got spinner's choice. He didn't get something that, that would bring down his spirits. He didn't land on some weird category. He was like, well, now I'm really effed. That didn't happen here. You're right. He got exactly what he needed. A little luck on your side to kind of get things going. Now, he may not have capitalized on it the way that he would have liked in the category, in the round, but he did enough here to keep within striking distance.
And that's all he needed to do. He needed just to stay within that range. Now, he ends up after Drew McWeeny goes, and remind me Drew McWeany's category. He ended up spinning what?
Sam Jackson. He got
Sam Jackson. On the first spin, he takes Sam Jackson. I like that we're getting more single actor categories this year. I feel like we've already had more in the first
different
3 matches.
Ones,
Yeah, different ones. Remember, we had Jodie Foster, and now we have Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
Interesting, different ones. And, okay, so after Drew McWeeny goes and Mark Riley goes, scores 15-12, still 3 points.
Yeah, and we need to talk about that 2 points. Yeah. That 2 point steal that Riley got which is really the difference maker here, because without that, he doesn't have a shot at winning this match. And look, again, that's just another little thing, a little piece of luck that goes your way, because I think Drew McWeeny probably had 2 options in his mind when he blurted out the answer, and Riley, gets the 2 point steal. So without that, I mean, it's a huge 2 point steal.
Had he not
once he got that,
lost.
Right, and once he got that, I go, oh, now we got a match, because it wasn't looking good.
It wasn't looking good. It really did look along the same lines as the Andrew Guy match. A not-so-great round 1. A better round 2, but still a little bit out of reach. So then we get to round 3. And Frank Janish, as JR would say back in the day on WWF Monday Night Raw, business is about to pick up, by God. And it sure as hell did. Walk me through round 3, because I can't even begin to tell you how nervous this round made me.
So Riley is down by 3, and I noted in the stat segment that he's come back from a 3-point deficit once before. He's actually had 2 comebacks before in his career. But his last one, it was a 3-point deficit when he was facing John Roca for the title. And he ended up coming back from a 3-point deficit, winning the title for the second time against John Roca. So he's done it before, and even in a more stressful situation, if you will, it's a title match. So he's got a mountain to climb here, and he's done it before. He can do it, but I think when you're in this kind of situation, you got to take one question at a time. And he gets a 2-pointer with the Cameron Diaz category, my best friend's wedding. He gets it, and we're like, okay, all right, we got some points on the board. We're off to a good start. But because he was down by 3, he has to hit a 3-pointer to send it back to Drew. He doesn't get it, so now he's staring at a TKO. And, this is kind of how the match was looking, but from early on, right? But he's kind of been chipping away here and there. He'd take one step forward and then another step back, and then he'd take another step forward and come back again. So it's a 5-pointer, and he staves off elimination, a TKO. He gets the 5-pointer, and now Drew, he doesn't have that much work to do on his side of things. He hits a 2- and 3-pointer, he goes home the winner, or he just hits the 5-pointer, and that's all she wrote. So he had a couple of options on how he could win the match. But for whatever reason, Drew isn't able to hit his 2-pointer. He hits his meaningless 3-pointer, and so he needs to hit the 5-pointer as the Disney category, who disguised themselves as Snowman in Beauty and the Beast. Couldn't come up with it. Didn't even use a JTE rule. Didn't use anything. Not even. Actually, no one used a JTE rule in this entire match, to be factually correct. So that was kind of interesting that he kind of just was like the Beast and he was done with it. I guess you get in those situations where you just don't know, so you're not going to waste any time. So the mere fact that Riley was able to, this is one of the scrappiest wins I've seen in quite some time in the Schmoedown. I mean, Riley, he just continued on fighting through that second round, in the third round, and he came out on top 19-18.
Are you saying that Riley rallied?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Karma Kramer? Yeah, no. I mean, it was a scrappy win. He fought from behind the entire match, wins 19-18 in dramatic fashion, and is back on the leaderboard and going after it. He's going after the gold, is what we found out in his post-match interview. Essentially saying, he's flanked by the rest of Who's the Boss, Bobby Gucci, and, of course, Ben Bateman, the boss. And he said, something about winning a 3rd championship that sounds real good to me. 3 titles sounds real good to me. He'd be the second person to ever do it behind Dan Murrell, but could you see Mark Riley go on a run and get back in title contention and take the championship back this year?
With this kind of luck, yes. With the kind of questions he gets and that kind of luck too, in terms of his accuracy rate, might need to be a little bit better. But the one thing he's got the more important thing right now going for him. It's the luck. So you need that more than anything in this kind of game. And because the knowledge is there, it's just whether or not he's going to get the right questions at the right time. And that's the case for most players, but the knowledge is definitely there, where if he can take advantage of the luck that he's been kind of getting, I mean, look, he came into this match ranked 6th. I think this probably puts him up near, probably 3rd. I don't know when Christian's releasing the rankings on the site. They might be up by now, maybe. If it's Saturday or Sunday you're listening to this, they might be up by now. I wouldn't be surprised if he's sitting at number 3. I think this win did a lot for him. He got his 10th win. He's the 4th player to ever hit double-digit wins behind Merle, Roca, and Sam Levine. So he hit some milestones in this match. Because also, again, what I was going to say, I mean, and also I noted this too in the stat segment, and I think this is a pretty noteworthy point here, is that Drew McWeeny outplayed Mark Riley all day in this match. His accuracy difference was 13.5% better than Riley's, and he lost. Wow. That's the 4th biggest difference for someone to lose a match that way. The 4th biggest of all time. And so you want to talk about good luck and bad luck. Drew McWeany's got some bad luck on his side. He's 4-5. He's below 500. Whoever would have thought Drew McWeany after he stormed into this league, I think he killed in his first 2 matches, couldn't get that 3rd win, but it's been back and forth with wins and losses, and now he sits a game under 500. That's crazy to me. A former team champ, the way he dominated in that league, he's under 500. Wow.
Yeah, that's it's a pretty miraculous fall from grace when you think about it. Now, I'm not saying that he's out of commission. We shouldn't talk about Drew McWeeny anymore.
No.
Obviously, he's still a force, but I can only make basketball and wrestling and rap references on the show. But to me, it's the Rockets were number 1 overall last year, the best record in the NBA, and this year they're number 6 so far in the West. Still in it, still a threat, just not statistically as great as they were last year.
Excuse me, jeez. If you look at Drew's, the way last year went for him and the start of this year, you might say he's kind of become the Bibbiani of what Bibbiani used to be, where the bad luck creeps up in that final round. He can't quite seal the deal. And if you look at it that way, eventually Drew McWeeny comes out of this rut and wins a championship, because that's exactly what happened for Bibb. So, as down as Drew might be after a match like this, you can only go up from here.
Well, and you can only go up from here, especially when, as we saw in the post-match interview, he has now aligned himself with Robert Meyer Burnett and Andrew Guy. Andrew Guy making quite the stable for himself, and he's got 2 big bodyguards behind him now.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting trio. You thought Who's the Boss was an interesting trio. This is going to be something else.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, can you imagine just a stare down between these 2 groups? Oh, this would be interesting. Former heels now turned face in Who's the Boss with Dagnino and Bateman, and being led by Riley in a sense. And now you got Andrew Guy, Robert Meyer Burnett, and Drew McWeeny. Ooh.
Yeah. It's a wild matchup. It's a wild matchup. Who knows? Now, here's the thing. This idea was floated kind of a long time ago in the form of a Survivor Series match. Do you think, though, if there was any time to ever do something like that, it would be great to see trio versus trio for the first ever 6-man team match in the movie Trivia Schmoedown?
It would certainly be very, very interesting. And I think when you look at it, it's pretty evenly matched.
Yes.
I think it's pretty evenly matched when all things considered. We know what Drew can do. Obviously, the wins aren't in his favor, but his accuracy is very high. And Andrew Guy, he can pull off miracles, apparently, every once in a while. And Robert Meyer Burnett, while he was once upon a time the Intergeekdom champion, and he was pretty solid with Team Heroes when he's with Schnepp. And I think he played a game with Campy as well, if memory serves. So he was pretty good in general trivia. And then you look at Who's the Boss, Dagnino. You never know what you get with him. But
you're never gonna know, brother.
Ben Bateman, Mark Riley can kind of make up that difference and even the playing field against the other 3 guys. It would be an interesting scenario that I think the fans of the Schmoedown would just be clamoring over. I certainly would.
If nothing else, since it's an experimental type match, Christian, powers that be.
Yeah.
Can we have it in an exhibition? If you don't want to do it in a regular league setting because it's not in teams, it's not in singles, make it an exhibition. Because I think you're passing up on gold here if you don't do a 3-on-3.
Look, the exhibition thing, this one can't be an exhibition. It really can't. You can't take what has happened outside and then throw it into a meaningless exhibition match. You know what I'm saying? I know where you're coming from.
I hear you.
I know where you're coming from, but it's at the end of the day, people are still going to be like, well, they did win, actually, in this exhibition match that didn't really count. But it kind of did, so it's going to happen. You just make it work.
I just don't know how you would count it if it was a 3-on-3 because it's not teams and it's not singles.
Good Lord, I don't. Yeah, that's.
And you don't want to do the stats for that, but I would love to see it.
I would love to see it. So
I would love to see it. Well,
the stats would just be a headache for me. Yes, it would throw a lot of things out.
Before we get out of here. Before we get out of here.
Yeah.
In all a completely serious note, the time that we're doing this is the same day that the aforementioned Mark Yodi Riley got some unfortunate news and had a bit of a rough day. I think that's an understatement. As all of us know who are Schmoedown fans for any period of time, or Collider or Schmoes fans or AMC, wherever you came in to the fold, you know that Mark Riley is a big Superman fan. We always see when he comes out with his jacket. It's the Superman leather jacket. It's a badass jacket. We know he's a big Superman fan, and he has a super dog that he named Kal, after, of course, Kal-El from Krypton. And Kal, unfortunately, left us today, the day that we're doing this, and Mark had a relationship, from what I was able to see and tell and understand, with this dog the same way many people have a relationship with a loved one, a family member, a significant other, a child. He loved Kal, and me being somebody who's owned dogs his entire life, always had dogs, and had them for long periods of time. My first dog, Rocky, 16 and a half years, almost 17. I know how it is to grow fond of an animal like a dog, and unfortunately Kal passed away today, the day that we're doing this. Mark Riley's put out a statement, a beautiful post. Frank, I don't know if you got a chance to read it yet, but in all honesty, it made me tear up. It made me tear up for sure. And he put it out, and he's hurting right now. And when one of us is hurting, we're all hurting. So I just want to say, rest in peace to the greatest dog, it seems like, in the history of the Schmoedown universe. That is Kal. Right. One that I got an opportunity to meet. I got to meet Kal back in December, my one and only time. He was there at the Spectacular. If you saw the behind the scenes of the Spectacular, there's actually a clip that goes straight from me to Frank to Kal. And that's a great trio right there, and I'm happy that we got to share screen time together. Yeah. So Mark, to you, your fiance, and everybody around you, our sincere condolences for your loss, because Kal seemed awesome, Frank.
Yeah, I absolutely echo your sentiments there, Brad. And a couple years ago, we lost our family dog, and while I wasn't, it was. Well, I was moved out of the house and was living with my dad. The dog was living with my dad, Didn't spend as much time, but, it was our family dog. I think she was about 13 or 14. And, it's hard. I was there the day we picked her up, and I was there the day she left us. So, it's a hard pain to deal with, but I think the community that we have here in the Schmoedown and the community that he has with him over there at the Collider family and the Schmoedown family over there, will rally behind him and be there for him, because Kal, I saw Kal a few times when I go to the studio, and he's walking around, and man, he owned the joint. Everyone loved Kal, and Kal knew he owned the joint. Kal knew he knew he was the boss there, and he was a great dog for Riley, from everything I can tell. From his posts, and whether it's on Instagram or social media, all that, Riley really loved Kal. You can tell that. You didn't even have to meet him in person or ever see him in person. You could just tell.
Right.
So we're gonna miss Kal, and our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to Riley and everyone that loved Kal.
Yeah, just it's if you've never owned a dog, it's such a hard thing to describe to somebody how attached you are to that animal. Same with a cat even, but something about that age-old adage of a dog's a man's best friend, and it really is. So Mark, we're feeling your pain, brother, and we're here with you. But Frank, I think that's a good place to end it here on this week on the Schmoedown Rundown. Make sure you follow us on all social media at Schmoedown Rundown or SD Rundown on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Brad Gilmore. Frank Janish, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29. If you want stats from the Schmoedown, follow SD Rundown Stats on Twitter. Go do that.
And
do it.
For our producer, Chris Clark, you can find him on social media at Chris Clark 8788. Frank, I don't think those numbers mean anything.
That's what I've heard.
That's the rumor that's been going around for a long time. Haven't been able to confirm it, but those numbers mean nothing. And Chris, thank you for chopping this up and killing it as always. Hope y'all like the new layout, the new format, and we will see you here on the Schmoedown Rundown next week.
I'm going to get a PI to look into those numbers. I swear to God, those are worth something.